And last but not least, let's talk about the newest chapter in what I call the MKAU, the Mortal Kombat Animated Universe cage match,
Right.
right? So, Ricardo, I want you to do the synopsis for this, right? So, pre-ramble time, right? We've covered the last three Mortal Kombat Legends films. We've enjoyed them for the most part, right? For me, the best one is still Scorpion's Revenge. I really enjoyed that one. That was the first one. And for me back then, it was like, all right, well, if this was really, if this delivered the goods that we all expected from an R-rated Mortal Kombat show, because you got to keep that in mind, this is actually the first R-rated Mortal Kombat movie that we ever got, right? Everything else was PG-13 or TV shows or whatnot, right? But this was the first feature that was actually rated R, right? And it's from One Animation too, right? So, of course, them always wanted to, push that envelope ever so often, especially with the DC stuff. Yeah, they actually get a chance, man. So yeah, we're gonna drop F-bombs and we're gonna have characters get their limbs ripped off or decapitated and shit and blood and guts, and we got that, right? The sequel, which was Battle of the Realms, really enjoyed that as well. That was a solid follow-up to it as well. Liu Kang, for me, was the MVP in it. He was just such a badass in this. And for me, that felt like the Mortal Kombat Annihilation that we wanted back in 97, but never got, right? We just got that campy, just straight out trash that was Annihilation, right? But I thought that was it, I thought that was the end because the way how they stopped it off was like, yeah, we don't need Mortal Kombat again, right? But then much to my surprise, we got Snowblind, right? Which I really enjoyed, right? That actually was my guilty pleasure, one of my guilty pleasure movies of last year. And fun fact, the previous two films were guilty pleasures of mine, right? And for me, it's just how they continue the story of Mortal Kombat, right? Just sort of doing like this alternate take on it. And even though I'm not familiar with the newer Mortal Kombat games, I remember you brought it up with your review. I like how they like kind of just show the progression of how life would be or how things would have changed if a character did X or did Y or
Right.
whatnot, right? Kano was such an asshole in this way. He was such a dick in this way. Jeez, right? But he made for a great villain. Who would have thought that Kano, you know? But yeah, what they did with the story there was pretty cool as well, right? But how I saw it there, it was just like a one-off show, you know what I mean? It was just like, all right, well, this is kind of like just a one and done kind of thing, so that's the last we'll see of that character. So with the next film, whatever that will be, we'll see what they do there, right? And surprise, surprise, we got the first trailer for Cage Match, right? Which of course is based off the a fan favorite. Regardless of whether it's the game or the movies or the live action movies or the animated movies themselves, Johnny Cage, right? Voiced brilliantly by Joel McHale. Like he is like the
Right.
perfect fit. I would say near perfect in my opinion. Fit, as Joel McHale, right? If you grew up on the soup, if you used to watch the soup,
Right.
like I did, it's like yeah, perfect,
Well,
right?
is he name from from Community now? Now I
All
think
right, yes, and
yeah,
I mean, how could I forget, right? How could I forget,
Jeff
right?
from Community.
The
Yeah,
star of Community, right? How
yeah,
could I forget,
Jeff
right?
from Community. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
exactly, right? He was perfect, right? But I wouldn't lie. I will admit, actually, I did not watch the trailer for this, right?
Yeah, me
Similar
too.
to Snowblind, I wanted to go into this as blind as possible, right? But going into this, like, seeing it for myself, I should have known when I saw the poster and I saw how they were just leaning a lot into like the retro 80s aesthetic. I was like, all right, I should have known this was what they was going for. But admittedly, I went going and thinking, oh, it's just like just it's not gonna be 80s. It's not gonna be pure 80s. It's just part of the character that is Johnny Cage. So I was thinking about it more like see kind of like Cobra Kai, for example, where
Right.
we're paying tribute to the 80s, but it's not an 80s show per se. But much to my surprise, it's actually an 80s show. But we'll argue about that, right? Because I won't lie, just get out of the way. While I was watching this, right? While I was watching this, I was wondering if it was in the 80s, but because if I just had to get one gripe of the way they didn't really establish the time of the setting of the show itself, I should say the time frame of it, right? Like the setting makes sense, right? And especially with that 80s aesthetic, it makes sense. But I was there like, what year is this, or what era is this, what decade is this? But yeah, it's the 80s. It is, and I'll talk more about that in my review, right? But yeah, Ricardo, before you jump into Cage Match, you could just talk about just briefly about the previous three films, right, and what you thought about them individually.
I vaguely remember them. Snowblind. We do them and then I forget. That the one with was the one with Kano is Kano's Will who's in charge of everything.
Right, that's Snowblind. That's Snowblind.
Right, yeah, that's alright. Because it's basically what happens when Kano wins Mortal Kombat. Alright, cool.
Right.
That was
Yeah.
it. I vaguely remember the other one, Scorpion's Revenge. I vaguely remember the other one with Liu Kang. This not really wowing me as a universe.
Yeah.
This Mortal Kombat universe not really wowing me. I get what they're trying to go for, but none of it wowing me or interesting.
Yeah,
but
to be fair, sorry to stop you there. It's still it's still these films, like, say what you want about them, right? But they still do much more than that god awful live action film from 2021 did, boy. Like,
right.
wow,
Yeah.
they just did
So,
way
again,
too much.
I'm not interested. To be fair, I'm not interested in Mortal Kombat outside of the games. Like in the
Alright,
games
I
itself
gotcha.
and all those cutscenes, great. But like this stuff, it's fine. But it's just kind of forgettable. And yeah, this one kind of forgettable too for me. It's
But yeah,
okay. I was
what's
watching
up? What's up about? What is Cage Match about in a
Okay,
nutshell?
I'm looking for actual synopsis because I vaguely remember this song. Yeah, so it's Hollywood is Johnny Cage catching the ass and it have a big, demon fight with so I was watching this character and like who working for Radiant here? There's a female Radiant, like no, it's Asher, right? Asher was a character? Yeah, vaguely remember this character. So is some demon stuff and basically they want to bring back Shinnok and the whole thing is about Shinnok.
Yeah.
They want to bring back Shinnok. Right. And Johnny Cage had to cut the ass, and then you see the origin of his quote unquote shadow power. So like how he does look kind of red and green in the game. Yeah, we find out how he could do that. I wish Raiden would fight in this, but whatever. Moving on. But yeah, Raiden is like, well, this Johnny Cage fella important. You have to go ting him. And then they have this. I forget who this black kid is. He's a character. I'm trying to remember.
No, I think he was made for this show, so his name is Brian.
Right.
And what surprised me though is voiced by Phil LaMarche. Like, wait, that's
Right.
you? Like,
Yeah,
I'm not
whatever.
saying he has to do the Samurai Jack voice for everything that he does, right? But like I read it up here right now. I didn't even know he's in Lower Decks, so I don't even know what his character
Yeah,
is
he's
or
in
how his
Connor, yeah.
voice sounds like, right? But
No,
yeah,
he's Marna's dad. Well, at least that is one of the characters he plays.
okay. But yeah, I was surprised that was him, right? But yeah, go on.
Right. It's basically that, and he just catching the ass as an actor, but they make a whole thing about him. They make a whole thing about him with he had to come up and he had to get chased by the audience, and he have a whole he own personal bullshit, but he's a really good martial artist.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get the late great Gilbert Godfrey to play a guy who was like
a agent of his, yeah.
you're right, that agent, and well, they put that in quotes because you learn who he is later, and so on, so on, and so forth.
Yeah.
And that's it. I was completely out of this. I could not get into this. It wasn't funny.
Okay.
It was basically Moonbeam City, but less funny somehow.
Yeah, Moonbeam City, by the way, was this like one season run of actually a show that was really promising, right? On
Yeah, that's an
Comedy
interesting
Central.
idea.
Yeah,
that's an interesting idea, but yeah,
but
I
that too
couldn't get.
leaned on the 80s culture,
Right.
right? From the music, of
Right.
course, to the visuals. It was pure
Yeah,
80s.
what's the name of the art style? Wait, I forget the name of the art
I
style.
forget what it is,
Right.
but they always like to say retro. This, is that kind of thing. Yeah.
Correct. And so on and so forth. And that is about it. Is this good? Couple of okay fights, but I couldn't get into it, and it was alright. You're fighting Shinnok. That's it. Moving on. You had to be excited for this film because I watched it and I was bored.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. So what I will say, right? It's a good thing that I went in blind, Jed, because yeah, if I did see the trailer for this, I would have went in with expectations way lower than they were for than my own was for this, right? But what I will say, right, is that for me, I didn't expect that it was gonna lean too heavy on the 80s-ness, right? Because like I said, I wasn't sure what time period this was in, but it's actually set in the 80s, right? And okay, so I have to say this because I am not versed in all things Mortal Kombat. I'm assuming that Warner Animation took a lot of creative liberties in creating this backstory for Johnny Cage. 'Cause, yeah, essentially what this
Probably, yeah.
is a prequel to the first film, Scorpion's Revenge, right? Where
Right.
yeah, this is like just his come up. I don't want to say his come up, right? But this is just basically an early adventure in the life of Johnny Cage before he got on that boat and participated in the tournament that was in the first film, right? I'm gonna talk about that, right? Because there's some issues with that, right? Mainly with other characters and their inclusion in this, right? But for some odd reason, I guess it's because I just like schlocky, cheesy ET shows, especially that lean towards action. I kind of find myself liking this too. I didn't love it, and I will say that
Yeah.
it is a gradual step down from what we got before. Like even Snowblind, which was something that was like,
Yeah.
all right, do we really need this? Kinda. I guess we didn't, but here it is, right? And this show, unfortunately, feels just like that, even worse than that. I must
Yeah.
say, right? That's not to say that Snowblind was bad. It's just that where same defenders, where Battle for the Realms ended, you just there thinking,
Right.
okay, well that's the end of Mortal Kombat Legends, but okay, we continuing this, and it's right after that second film, okay. But the story worked, and you got your blood and guts, and you got the Mortal Kombat goodness, right? So even though it didn't feel like we needed it, it was still enjoyable, right? This feels way more. It feels like just more of that. Where did we really need this? No, but I still enjoyed it for what it is. And just for me, the real reason why I enjoyed it is because of the 80s-ness, right? The cheesiness of it all, just how schlocky it is. It really feels like you're just watching one of those like 80s, like forgettable 80s movies, like direct to video, like legit. It feels like a direct to video
Yeah.
movie, that
It
that
felt
when I
it
got
felt
on
it felt dated.
VHS back in
It
the
felt it
80s.
felt no, it felt dated and unfinished. Like to me, like it's
Uh,
just like I find somebody's voice acting was just kind of out of sync. Everything was just feeling like unfinished and not really that clean. It felt like that because they had Gilbert Gottfried, right? Like how long did they record this? It
that's
felt
true.
like it felt like it done for a hot minute, and I thought some of the animation wasn't all that great. Sound design was feeling kind of off. It felt unfinished. Like it just felt
Yeah.
like one of these really amateur or what kind of things. But no, what it felt like is like, yeah, we're not gonna finish this. And the edit and the sound design, not all that there. And that's how it felt to me. It had a
Right.
couple of okay jokes. Like it had this one joke when he went into the cult for the first time, and they asked him, and he had to give him a fake name. And what the
Oh,
fake name he give? Yeah, it's like okay, that kind of funny because it's a Mortal Kombat reference. Like,
yeah.
alright, no problem.
Right, right,
And so
right.
and so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But yeah. But
Saw
you
that Ed Boon wrote this, so that's why it probably sucks.
okay.
Ed Boon, Ed Boon is not a writer. Sorry. I mean, yeah, you
he, he, he,
get,
he comes up with characters, right? That's what he
yeah, no,
does.
yeah, just get a proper writer, make it work for waiters, and then have that work. But yeah, this didn't work for me. That is
Yeah.
a big part of that.
All
So
right,
yeah, go ahead.
but I'm still gonna throw some positives out there, right? Joel McHale, he is Johnny Cage to me though. He just nails the cockiness and the charisma that we know of Johnny Cage. Though. I would have done without the periodic. Okay, we have to do the pause and zoom in on a character while we freeze frame the shot while we hear the voiceover. It's like, all right, I get it. You're trying to go for neo noir, I get, but you don't need to do it all the time. I get. I know, it's about the character of him, and he's full of himself, right? So you like to talk about yourself, right? But they just did it way too much, right? In my opinion, right? But like you, and I imagine a lot of people going into this, right, without spoiling too much. Yeah, I was just there like wondering, okay, when is this set? How is this related to the films that we got before? And it's only in the end where they kind of connect. I
I
was like, okay, and they actually do a very admirable shout out to the OG game. That's all I'll say without spoiling it. I was
right,
like, all right,
right,
I like that, and so it kind of sets up the timeline there. That okay, this is in the 80s, right? They also reference a movie. I'm not gonna say which one, but it's one of like the
right,
defining action films of the 80s that work. So I like that, and it's Warner Brothers, right? So that's my big clue that I'll give, right? So it's Warner Brothers, like all right, I get, right. That being said, though, that now opens up this bigger kind of worms now, because now you're wondering, when did the first film, right, as in Scorpion's Revenge, take place, right? Now here's the thing, right? That's not gonna get into spoilers here, right? But that's working with me logically, right? If this was meant to be before the first live action film that came out in 95, right? So let's
Right.
just say
Okay.
that that
But that's the
film,
same
the original
continuity.
film.
That's not that same. Another same continuity.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting, right? So let's just
Okay.
say, for example, that film, right, which we know and love, that came out in '95, took place in '95, right? The
Right.
setting, the time frame of this movie would have make a lot of sense, right? Because it kind of leads
Right.
up to that. But in the montage that they do near into the end of the film, they kind of say no, it's past the '90s now, so we kind of go into the 2000s or whatever. Because you've seen paparazzi. That's slight spoiler, right? That's all I'll say. But it's still kind of having a warning. Okay, so when did the first film, as in Scorpion's Revenge, take place? I just want to know this time frame. When did it take place, right? Because I'm assuming
Matthew,
it's 2020,
Matthew,
right?
you real care about it.
I know,
You real
I
care
know. You
about
could come in and
it.
tell, boy, you real care, you real, putting real
I couldn't
effort
get
into
myself
this
to care,
stuff.
but it's so boring. Yeah, I couldn't get
Yeah.
myself to care.
So
Oh, yeah.
that's
Yeah,
why
right.
unfortunately I felt like the '80s setting was a misfire.
Right.
But because they leaned into it so much, and you could tell that they really care about, like, you could tell that they were just doing this love letter to it though, in a real cheesy, goofy kind of way. I kind of like it. I didn't
Okay.
expect that they would actually have like synth pop songs in it,
Yeah.
but it did it. It's even to the
I
point,
think
right?
what happens is that just
One
watch.
point, this slight spoiler, they even throw out a Prince reference and then had
Right.
like just the opening piece of a song, right? But it sounds so much like the type of music that Prince and the Revolution used to make. Sure, like, I know this is not a Prince song, but how the style of it is very much like Prince. I'm like, wow, boy, they're playing relevant to make me believe this is the '80s. Though, wow, right?
No, yeah, as I say, it feel like one of them just unfit again because everything felt so unfinished, and we just watched Castlevania,
Yeah,
so it's like, yeah, this too low effort for me to care. Again, I can't say low effort. That's unfair. Mostly, what I think happened is that it probably just ran out of money, so they just say, all right, well, it's good enough, put it out. That way, it feel like that. It feel like that.
It's
That's what
probably that, right? But yeah.
Right.
So as much as I embrace the 80s of it, right? Even right down to the horror element, right? Because
Right.
these guys are borrowing from '80s horror. Because I'm seeing
Yeah.
I see in bits that you would see off of like some film like oh gosh, like From Beyond or Society,
Yeah.
like some
Yeah,
like
right.
during that era of '80s horror where they were really pushing the boundaries of what they could do with with visual effects now, with practical effects now,
Right.
showing human beings, seeing demons coming out of that, right? I even
I
got
mean, everything.
some bits
Certain
of
things.
'80s anime vibe for it too.
Right.
So like I get a
Yeah.
little bit of Wicked City,
Right.
right now with it's the world that it's not original, mind you, right? It's the world that you think it's all normal and shit, but this guy's actually a demon in disguise. Like I was getting some
Right.
vibe from it too. Even right down to the female characters, like this one, Ashra,
Ashera.
who I didn't
Yeah.
even know was voiced by Kelly, who like just the look of her was very much like the protagonist in Wicked City, kinda in a sense. Like I was getting a little '80s anime which
Right.
should be out there, right?
Well, another thing I was getting to is Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes,
A little
especially
bit
with
of
the
that,
inclusion of right, with the whole with the cult stuff and
Yeah, and then the
with
core
shit up too.
conceit of it.
Yes.
Yeah, the core conceit of it had a Big Trouble in Little China feel to it, where the main character is the goofball, and the side character, who's at least I saw it framed now because he's the white guy. Same joke.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It's exactly that, right? That
Yeah,
being
yeah.
said, though, there's some flaws in this. Though there's some very noticeable flaws. Like I noticed, like just like the animation styles, like some bits did feel really unpolished. Though there was
Yep,
bits
very
where
unpolished.
I was seeing like oh gosh, like the lip movements move
Yep,
a
a lot
little
of talking was
faster.
off, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yep,
you like a
yep.
line would finish
Not synced at
like
all.
one
Yeah.
syllable, and you see the mouth close and whatnot. But there's bits, there's other bits where the animation looks so seamless. Right? I just like, what happened?
Yeah.
So case in point, there's a moment where there's a really solid, albeit been there, seen that reveal twist, I should say, right? Involving
Right.
who Johnny Cage is looking for, right? As I'll say without spoiling
Right.
anything. And points for actually getting an actress who is synonymous with 80 cinema to voice her. I was like, what? Okay.
Right.
Right? So
And then the ending
Uh-huh.
felt very Last Dragon.
Yes, right down to the
Yeah.
music and how Johnny gets
Yeah,
the glow.
but so
Yeah.
because he get the shadow claws, the same glue. Yeah,
Yeah,
same. Yeah,
yeah, I like, yeah, that's some Last Dragon shit, right? I'll talk about the
yeah,
finale in a bit, right? But yeah, there's a moment where you see Johnny tied up, right? And the person talking to him, right? I just say watching, like, animation wise, it looks so good. I like,
right.
wow, like they pump real money into it, right? Like everything worked. The lip movements, the character movements, everything looked great, right? But yeah, it have parts that look real choppy, dog, and because they have to
Yeah,
incorporate CG into it, so yeah, the cars look CG. It's like when you're
yeah,
seeing cars moving about, it's like, oh, okay,
yeah.
yeah,
Look
like they
like
kind of
shit.
take you out, right? The
Yeah, look at
fight,
rubbish.
some of the fights look kind of choppy. I get what it's going for, trying to keep everything in camera, in quotes, but yeah, some of it look kind of choppy. You know what I mean? I do
Yeah,
like the fight between Ashra and Kia. That's one of the main
right.
villains. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
cool,
she,
but
well,
it's
spoiler, right? She was related to her in some way. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But you see a bit of choppiness there. I would admit, yes, you're right. Some of the humor does fall flat. But again, I would just watch it as like like a cheese, like a throwback to like cheesy VHS level, 80s action films. So it kind of works there. I did not expect the character of Brian, that would be the assistant to Johnny Cage. I kind of saw him as just, he's literally Steve Urkel, like the way how like
Right,
just his
right.
his his costume alone is very Steve Urkel. I was like, all right, this Warner Brothers, okay. I get why he there, because you need a straight guy. Okay, I get. And they do this joke. What will Johnny Cage do? Get WWJC? Get because like
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah,
Christ. I get.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, all right,
yeah, yeah.
we get the joke. Okay, right? Yeah. But he was just serviceable, right? That's all I'll say, right? How they like I was just there like seeing these characters show up, right? The main antagonists and whatnot, right? Like and Ashra, and just like, are they related to the game? And then they mentioned the whole cult of Shinnok thing. Is
I
like,
know
is this part of the
Asha was supposed to be a
game?
character. Asha was supposed to be a character in Mortal Kombat. Like,
All
I was
right.
watching the design. I was like, oh yeah, she was in Mortal Kombat 5, I think, or one of them. Can't remember.
Okay. Because I'm assuming
Yeah.
they can't just invent characters for the sake of it, right? So I'm assuming that they're
Except they
part of
do
it, right?
that in that last shitty movie. Remember they
Yeah.
did that with Cole, whatever.
Oh yeah,
Moving on.
right. The 2021 film, right? That got
Yeah.
off of it, right?
Right,
But
right.
yeah, and the whole cult thing and how they tie it to Hollywood, nothing original. I get it, but it kind of work, in the world of Johnny Cage, right? Like, I try to blow up. I try to be the next big action hero, right? But you have these corporate people, these Hollywood people trying to bring me down or trying to keep me, at a D-list level. I like that, right? I didn't expect Gilbert Godfrey to be there. I think that's probably one of his last performances there. Foul mounted as all hell, but it
Yeah,
works.
yeah.
Although I felt it was kind of forced the way how he delivered lines. Like, I get it. I get who he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be foul mounted. Everything is always fucking all the time, but it's just like he stresses on the F bomb so much. It's just like it kind of it kind of tires out. It kind of, you get tired of it after a while, right? But it leads to a pretty cool fight afterwards, and that was really interesting, right? Where it all leads up to, I mean, nothing original, but again, if because it leads on the 80s stuff, it kind of works, right? That being said, though, forgive me because I've not seen Scorpion's Revenge in a while, but I could be wrong. I feel like Shinnok's design was different, right? His character
Right,
design
probably.
did not, for me, he did not look the way how he looked in Scorpion's Revenge, right? So I just did
Right.
like, wait, because I do hope, right, there was some sense of continuity. So I'm hoping that if I were to recap, Scorpion's Revenge, he looks the same way, but something was off with how he looked there. And I was just like, all right, like
Yeah.
I like that they focus on him, 'cause at least it connect to the existing films, okay, but still I was just there like, all right, is this the same Shinnok or he look the same as before? I don't even know, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
again, you're okay, boy. Anyway, give
Yeah,
your
yeah,
review.
but yeah, well, you wrap up here, right? So
Yeah,
just to get this all the way, just to wrap things up, I actually enjoy this more than you, right? But for
by
me,
far. I get it clearly.
my
Yeah.
main reason is because it just lead towards the schlocky, cheesy 80s this of it, right? It really does feel like one of those direct-to-video 80s movies that were forgotten, and somehow Vinegar Syndrome, shout out to Vinegar Syndrome, found it and repurposed it and reformat it and put it out there for people like us to watch at a bad movie line, you know what I mean? That's how it felt like it felt like just an 80s throwback. It kind of throws off the timeline for me because now you're just there wondering, okay, why we go all this way back and all that kind of stuff. We don't really know. I'm not really sure. But I like it for what it is. This is a show that I will go back to in a hurry. No. This is a show that I remember in a hurry. No. I'll actually remember Snowblind more than this, right? But for what it
I actually
was,
remember Snowblind.
yeah, before it was, I was entertained, right? I was whelmed by it, but I wasn't overwhelmed by it, right? And lastly, will this be one of the guilty pleasure movies of 2023? No, right? Because as much as I could praise it for it being intentionally and unintentionally cheesy, I felt they could have put more effort, not just into the animation, but the story too, right? Because, yeah, it had some pieces issues here or there, and I felt that they really could have connected more to what we saw before, and not just have characters like, say, Reading show up as a cameo, like what was that, right?
Yeah.
I know that had
Yeah.
you thinking because I don't remember much from Scorpion's Revenge when Reading met him for the first time, or did they meet there, or in the other one? I can't remember. I don't follow
Yeah.
these things. Yeah, it's the relationship between the two. So again, it's just the questions the show leave you left me asking, right? But yeah, for what it is, I'll be charitable with it though. Like 3 out of 5, man. It's aight.
Right.
It's aight for what it is. If you're going with expectations real low, and if you is in particular are a fan of just cheesy 80s movies, you'll enjoy it, right? I do admire how they paid tribute to it, right? But I felt like, again, what is the direction of these Mortal Kombat Legends movies? Are we just going to get these standalone films that kind of don't really add up to anything? I don't really know. But I do like the animated universe. I do like the fact that we have one, right? And they're doing much more with the source material than that god-awful 2021 film did, right? But we need some direction. We need some course, right? Not just the
here's the problem,
standalone stuff all
actually.
the time. Give
Here's
a
the
more
problem,
story,
actually.
you know what I mean? I'll stop.
Here's the problem. The thing is, anything outside of the video games, I don't really care. Like,
Right.
you're half-assing it. It's kind of hard for me to care. That's why if all of this could implode, and I wouldn't know or care. The video game's already telling a solid story for what it is. And even that last video game, the storyline was kind of bad. Well,
Okay, well, thanks for telling me, right? But why not,
Yeah.
and I'll stop here, why not just take, like, a story or a character from those games, like those newer games, and make a film out of that, right? So it's kind of like the DC animated films, right? You
Yeah.
take an existing, story arc or whatever, or comic book run that kind of had some kind of impact on other comics later on, and make that into a film and kind of
Yeah.
connect it
Well,
together. Do that. These are these
Uh,
standalone things
again,
that nobody asks for, right? Just saying.
the demand had to be there, and I don't think the demand there. But whatever, moving
Yeah,
on.
but yeah,
Next.
your last thoughts on rating.
Yeah, this was forgettable for me. 6 out of 10. Probably lower. I'll say more like a 5 out of 10.
Yeah,
Closer
I
to
want to
4.
know you giving it 6. Nah, nah.
Yeah. It was kind of forgettable. I just was just so bored with it. But I get what it was going for. I get what it was trying. I thought a couple of little moments that make me smirk. So that was about it. But yeah, it's a bunch of 80s references, but it was just too slapdash and cobbled together for me to enjoy it as much as it could be. Or it could have been. I felt it could have made a better effort. I get all the references. I see what they're going for. Moving on.
Yeah, moving
5
on.
out of 10.
But let's hope with the if we ever get any more of these, that they really do punch up on these stories, and more importantly, they stick to the lore. They stick to the stuff that the fans love, instead of like inventing stuff like, oh, like, did anybody really want to see a backstory for Johnny Cage? Anybody really want to see that?
Yeah.
Moving
Moving on.
Just see it, right? Moving on.
Right.